Hello again everyone, my name is James Shotwell and this is the Music Biz channel. Today we are talking about branding. In the shortest explanation possible, everyone is trying to get ahead today and there's a lot of great music out there being shared by people on a variety of platforms. Making an impression on people is one thing, but sticking with them is another thing entirely, and that's where branding comes in. Now I'm going to go out on a limb and say that you already have a pretty decent brand. I mean, you're out there on the internet, you're making content, you're sharing your songs, you're making posts, you're engaging with people, at least I hope you're doing all of those things. So you're probably wondering what more you need, or even why you need to focus on this more than you already are, and it's for a few reasons. The big one being communication. Your music says a lot. If I hear your song, it tells me a lot about you, but not everyone is going to hear your song. So how do you get things across to people who haven't heard the music yet? That's where branding comes in. Now we can do this in a variety of ways. I'm going to give you about 5 of them right now, but know that there are dozens out there. You have to find what works for you. But the value in this is that it communicates your story, your sound, your direction, and your purpose without you having to explicitly state it. That's the goal. Now again, before we get into all of this, these are all suggestions. You can do one of them, you can do all of them, you can do none of them. The purpose of this activity is to get you thinking about your brand. How do you represent yourself? How do you want other people to perceive you? And a good way to start thinking about that is in the colors that you choose. Now for example, if I'm a death metal band or a black metal band, the idea that I sell a lot of black t-shirts and I have a lot of black imagery, that's probably pretty common, because that black color is always a signifier of that darkness, of that heaviness, of that rock and roll aesthetic that is all built into the color black. So when I'm branding, I probably wouldn't pick fuchsia and lavender. Those two colors wouldn't really market death metal necessarily. I could do it, but it's going to make the battle a lot more uphill. So my advice to you here when it comes to colors is find 1, 2, maybe 3 colors that you want to define your brand. And these colors will be used across all aspects of what you do. And you can change them at any time. Maybe each album cycle you get a new set of colors, but these colors are used so that whenever anybody sees something you post, they immediately make the connection that it's your thing. So if you're using Kelly Green on your logo and on the album artwork and in all of your branding, the background is always Kelly Green. Whenever somebody sees Kelly Green in the wild, they'll think of your music. All right? Let's keep going. Now this next one is a classic trope, and it certainly doesn't work for everyone, but I do think that most artists and groups attempted at some point in their career, and that is using symbology or picking a symbol to represent your music. Now the most iconic version of this is Prince, who at one point was no longer called Prince. He was just defined by a symbol. But a lot of bands have these. You could also call them a logo. It's something that, without, again, stating anything explicitly, lets people know that it's you, that's your art and your music. It gets it across. Think about the Rolling Stone lips, for example. You just have to see those lips and you know that we're talking about the Rolling Stones. That is iconic branding. The band Black Veil Brides has always used the initials BVB. That has always helped people understand that if someone has a BVB, you see BVB somewhere, you know who we're talking about. Symbology helps. Now for this next recommendation, I personally only would use this when thinking about projects. So I always love when an artist picks a definite set of branding for each project. So the colors, the symbols, the theme, all of it goes together, and then when the next project comes along, we shift in a way that feels natural and progressive, but is still unique. Now, with that in mind, the third thing I wanted you to think about is themes and motifs. Now, there are some bands where picking a theme is relatively easy. For example, Rage Against the Machine, their theme is right there in the name. You know what they're doing, you know what they're trying to do. So when you look at their marketing and their every message they put out, how they present themselves to the world, Raging Against the Machine is always a bent in it. You always know that that's what's happening. You always know that that's what they're trying to push. Having a theme like that can help you not only find your audience, but can help audience people, listeners, find you as well. So think about what you want that to be and how you can embody that through your artwork and through your music. You know, maybe you are a political band. So your symbol, all the imagery that you make should have a political tilt. Your lyrics have a political tilt. Everything that you do has that built into it so that if somebody is looking for a political band or a person that shares your ideology is looking for somebody like that in music, they can find you and there'll be no question about whether or not you're the right choice. Okay, for step 4, I want to zoom out. So far we've been talking about very specific things like colors and fonts and imagery, but there's a lot bigger picture to consider here as well. Like, how do we want things to make us feel? To give you an example of how this plays into branding, a lot of fast food restaurants will use red and yellow to make our brains think about urgency and quickness, so that if we're in the restaurant, we still see those colors and we remember this is fast food. We're supposed to move quickly and get out of here so that more customers can come in. Something similar can happen with your music when you think about how you want people to feel. That can give you a lot of direction when it comes to marketing and promotion. For example, if I'm a hardcore band, I'm trying to get people angry about something, be it systemic, whatever it happens to be, then everything that I do is going to kind of be built around this idea. We're here to make people aware. We're here to get them angry. We're here to fight for change. That everything that we do needs to be inside of that idea. Now, you don't have to be that specific with it. Maybe you're an artist who just wants to have a good time. Well, that's fine too. At least you know how you want people to feel. You want them to leave your concerts. You want them to end listening to a song feeling joyful, feeling refreshed, feeling like they had a good time. With that in mind, you can think about every aspect of your career and how you can maximize that feeling. So if I want them to feel good, are my songs positive? Are the tempos upbeat? Is the production good? What does my imagery look like? Am I sharing that I'm a happy person, that I want them to be happy as well? What are we doing to get joy conveyed without me saying the word explicitly? And the final thing that I want to think about, at least in this video, is how your personal brand connects to, but is still separate from, your artistic brand. And what I mean about that, especially when we're talking about groups, is that every person feeds into the identity of the band. Let's think about boy bands in the classic setup. There's always a cute one, a shy one, a bad boy. These are tropes that exist within boy bands, and we look for them when we see new ones. It helps us understand what we're taking in. Well, when we think about groups or even musicians as a whole, who you are as a person filters into how people perceive your group. Now, this can be a good thing and a bad thing. In the last year, there was a notable metal band who kicked out one of their members after he made his views on flat earth theory known to the public. Those views ran counter to how the band wanted to be perceived and also how the other members were feeling. When those beliefs became known to the general public, it started to change how people were perceiving the band in question. As a result, the band and that member ultimately ended up parting ways. Now, the reason I tell you all this is not to police one another and not to force one another to behave in a certain way. Again, it's all about just to get your mind thinking about these ideas. Now, if you and all of your friends who are in a band together are in agreement in what it is you're doing and what you're trying to achieve. Let's say that you're in a pop group and you want to be playing arenas within the next 5 years. Well, then everything that each of you do needs to be working towards that goal. If one of you is on social media talking about how much you dream of being in a metal band or how much you actually hate pop music or how much the music industry is screwing you, that is going to reflect on the group as a whole. And whether or not you feel that should be the case, it is the case. That's just how these things work now. So if we want to be successful in our branding as a group or as a musical artist, we need to be thinking about our career as it relates to what we do outside of it, because they're all connected, and in the world where we're all given access to the same internet, people are going to see things. Some people are going to encounter your personal accounts without knowing who you are as a musician, and that goes for every member of your band. When they do that, will their impression be that you're a good musician who's in a band they should check out? Or will it be something entirely different that has nothing to do with your career? Neither one is the right answer necessarily. It's just something that you need to be thinking about and be conscious of, because it all goes into how people are deciding what to do with you as an artist. If I'm in a meeting with a label or a management team, we're trying to decide whether or not to bring you on. We're not just going to look at your Spotify numbers and your website and your tweets as a group. We're going to look at your personal accounts. We're going to Google your names. We're going to see what people are doing. And we're going to see how all of that goes to make an ecosystem around the community that is your music. And if it's good, we're going to move forward. But if it's questionable, we might look for somebody else. Now, the last thing that I want to say about branding, at least in this video, is that the goalposts are always moving. At no point in your career should you be satisfied with your personal brand, especially as a musician. It is always changing. Who you are today is not who you were yesterday, and how you carry yourself needs to reflect that, both as a creative person and as a normal human being making your way through life. Branding is how we want the world to perceive us, and the better job we do at that, the less time we have to spend fighting any other ideas about who we are and what it is that we're trying to achieve. My advice to you, spend some time thinking about these things. Maybe make a list. Maybe you try every single one of them and see what works for you. Maybe you just look up how branding works in a much bigger idea and start piecing away at that. But think about these things. Don't just focus on your music, because not everyone is going to meet you through your music. Keep that in mind. Now, I'm going to be back real soon, but until then, my name is James Shotwell, and this is Music Biz. We exist to help you navigate the modern music industry. That means where we come from, where we're going, where we're at, but also what we need and what we need to avoid at all costs. Every week I try to post new videos here. There's also a podcast version of the show, but if you need even more advice, I'm happy to point you in the direction of my friends such as Damian Keys or Jesse Cannon at Must Formation. These guys also have great advice to help you on your careers. Now, until I see you next time, take care of yourself because you deserve it.